we become happier? Researchers across the globe are working to answer that question, and they've been able to prove there are steps we can all take to become happier, more resilient, and healthier. Every Monday this month, we're going to be looking at ways we can become happier in life. And this morning, we're going to start things off by taking a closer look at the science of happiness. We've got Dr. Doug Kruger, a professor at Northwest Arkansas Community College, with us this morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Professor. I'm really excited to kick this series off with this subject of the science of happiness.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, let's get things started by talking about what is happiness and what is happiness not.
Well, ever since the time of Aristotle, 2,300 years ago in ancient Greece, it's been recognized that happiness is not just an emotion. When we want to know whether someone is happy, we're asking about something much more than just, do you have a particular joyous feeling at a particular moment? Rather, we're looking at that person's life overall. So I like to define happiness as living a satisfying life you can enjoy and value. So there's several parts to that definition. Living a satisfying life. Are you pleased with the progress you're making in life, where it's headed, and so forth? A life you can enjoy. Do you have more pleasant experiences than unpleasant, and so forth? Because, of course, that's important to us. And then also a life of value. Does your life have meaning? Do you feel that you're doing more than simply going from one event to another? Does your life have a purpose?
Well, there are several things that impact our happiness or could impact our happiness. Let's first talk about genetics. How does genetics impact our happiness?
Well, genetics has a huge impact on our happiness. There was a study done in 1996. A study of twins in, of all places, the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Interesting.
Coincidence?
Yes.
I don't know. But they were able to discern that genetics plays a huge role, perhaps as much as 50. Originally, they said 80% of our happiness is genetically determined. Wow. But the good news is that's not 100%. So there are still steps that one can take to increase one's level of happiness.
What about age? Do we become happier as we get older?
Well, we start out in life, as you may recall, as a teenager, we're going to be conquering the world, and we're not going to make the mistakes that our parents made and so forth. And then once you're out there in the working world, well, life is ready to grind you down. And so you may start a family, get a house, have a mortgage, have children, lots of responsibilities, and those weigh heavily upon our happiness. And so your happiness level starts to drop throughout your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and by the time you get to my age, your mid to late 50s, that's about the lowest point in your life in terms of happiness. But then, here's the good news. You pay off the mortgage, you pay off the car, the kids move out of the house, and so forth, and then your happiness level starts to rise again. So sometimes they call that the smile-shaped trajectory. Start out high, get low, go back up.
Well, it's good news that we do eventually end up at that high mark again.
Yes, you do.
What about wealth? A lot of people think, and I know that I have had this same thought in the past, more money will make me more happier. Is there any truth to that? Well,
that's the stereotype about money, that it solves all your problems. It turns out it doesn't. There's been a lot of research done on wealth and happiness, and there have been sweepstakes and lotteries for decades now.
Yeah.
And it turns out that when you get a lot of money, you don't eliminate your problems. You just get a different set of problems.
Right.
So, for example, you might be wondering, if you don't have a lot of money, gosh, I need some new tires for my car. Where am I going to get the money?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe this happened to me. And then when you get a lot of money, you have a different set of problems. Like, oh, no, I'm going to be going to Europe next week, and the maid just quit. I don't have time to interview someone to replace her, and, you know, and things like that.
Yeah.
So money doesn't eliminate problems. It just gives you a different set of them.
A lot of people are watching this morning because they want to know, how do I become happier? And there are science-based tips or science-based proven tips that can help us become happier in our life. Let's go over a couple of those.
Oh, absolutely. One thing that one can do is set realistic life goals. Okay, so you might say to yourself, I'm going to, let's say, go into a particular career. I want to be successful in that career, but make it realistic. If you're, for example, going into acting, don't say, well, I'm not going to be happy until I get a Golden Globe Award or something like that. That's a little too... by the way, the Stoics, way back 2,300 years ago in ancient Greece, said, don't base your happiness on things that are beyond your control. And getting awards and, you know, things of that sort, that's decisions that other people make. But try to be in control of your life and set the direction.
Okay.
And on that heading, another thing that someone can do to increase one's levels of happiness, control your time. Budget your time, manage your time. Now, when you're employed, your employer has a lot of say as to when it is you're going to spend time in the workplace, but you are in control of when you're not working. So set weekly goals, monthly goals, and so forth to help work toward the goals that you set, those realistic goals.
Let's talk about one more, and I want to highlight relationships. You say that's really important.
Yes, maintain close relationships. And it's all too easy for someone that is valuable to you to kind of slip away from your life and so forth if you don't pay attention to that person. But keep that person informed. Now with social media, it's easier than ever to keep that person close to you. So make sure they know about things that are happening in your life. And more than just putting something on social media, pick up the phone, call that person, or better yet, try to meet that person for coffee every once in a while, because those relationships that we nurture are the ones that can really help us when things are tough.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate your time. Of course, we're going to be continuing this series all month long. Next week, we're going to take a closer look at ways we can become happier in our relationships. Also, you can go to our website right now and find free online courses offered across the country that focus on happiness.